So what do we have to do to hit a golf ball straight? Well, there's a lot of things. And in reality, it really is determined by where the club face is at the point of contact. In fact, when the ball leaves the club face, because you know, in slow motion, the ball actually sticks to the club face for a very short period of time before it then goes on its merry way. Well, coming into the ball, we've got to look in terms of, hey, how square the club face is, obviously. How much we contact the ball in the center of the face or off the toe or off the heel. Square face contact is very important. Making sure that the path the club is swinging on is correct. In other words, it's not coming from out here or too far from in here. The club, in actual fact, is fairly square just before the ball and just after the ball. So we have a straight line through impact only for a very short distance. We also have to be aware of the angle that the club comes down to the ball on. Is it coming down too steeply? Is it moving up too abruptly? All these things affect the shape of the shot. Having the club face just a little open, or a little closed, or coming a little too far from the inside, or coming a little too far from the outside, or coming down a little too steeply, or going up a little bit too steeply. All these affect the shot in some form or shape. They may only affect it in a little way, but they'll definitely affect it. So we have to understand a little bit what's actually taking place through impact. And really, what takes place through impact really determines the outcome of the shot. So we can start to sort of work backwards. If the ball is doing this, that means the club face is doing that. If the club face is doing that, that means our swing is doing this. So you can see, we have to be a little bit of a detective in working things out. So let's talk about a couple of the shapes that we see, which are very common, which are probably most common, are the pull and the dreaded slice. Okay, now, so what happens here, if you take the target line, which obviously runs through the ball down towards the target, the club in actual fact is swinging down on a line which is not necessarily outside the target line. That's why I don't like the term out to in as such. Yes, it moves out, but very seldom do you see a player who actually swings so far outside the line that they then swing across it. It'll just move this way. In general terms, what you see is a very steep swing. So now, this steep swing creates a situation through impact where the hands are actually working across the body like this. The face, generally speaking, for a slicer, certainly is going to be open, okay? This puts on spin, which sends the ball to the right, okay? So we're looking in terms of clockwise spin. That sends the ball off to the right. If the face happens to be a little closed, as we swing on that steep angle, if we have a closed club face, the ball will start straight to the left. Now that's a pull. So a pull and a slice, in actual fact, are the same family. Now, we'll also tend to see, especially in severe cases, the divots look way to the left of your target. So if the divots are way across the ball in this fashion, you can guarantee that you are an out-to-in steep swinger. And pulls and slices and weak shots are going to be the result. Now, conversely, let's look at the other shape. Okay, now, these players are in the minority, players who tend to push the ball and hook the ball. So what we're seeing here is a situation where the club is coming on an angle and a line that are too shallow and too far from the inside. So this track here now, you can see the angle that I'm swinging the club on, the line I'm swinging it on. The ball should start off to the right. Now instinctively, what good players do, they instinctively try to square the face off, so as they swing out to the right, as the face closes, the ball will in all probability start slightly right and then hook back to the left. Now, I have seen in severe cases some players, they use their hands to such an extent that the ball appears to go straight to the left. It's what we term a pull hook. But players who swing a little too far from the inside, generally speaking, the divots are of a very thin nature, not a deep divot. A lot of times the divots will actually look to the right of the target. So there's a telltale sign. Another thing to look at too, if the ball is struck off the heel of the club, that's an indication that the club is coming a little too far from the inside. The old steep outside-in type swinger, generally speaking, the marks are going to be on the toe, also on top of the club. So you can see we've got some variations in what the club is actually doing. Our goal is to get the club head traveling down the line at maximum speed. And the longer the club, the lower the club should be traveling to the ground. You know, when you're hitting a short iron, the club is swung on a slightly more erect or upright plane. That means the club is coming down a little bit steeper. Now, the longer the club, if you want to get some really solid shots where you're really going to sweep the ball off this tee, the club has to be traveling low to the ground. It's called a flat spot at the bottom of the swing. That's why we don't want to try to lift the ball in the air. A lot of problems come from a mental approach to this game, trying to help the ball up into the air. If you make a swing, there's plenty of loft, even on a driver like this, which has 9 degrees, there's plenty of loft to get the ball up in the air. There's an old saying in golf, you have to let the club do the work. Now, certainly seeing where the shot flies, it just helps us analyze what's taking place. You then, obviously with Ledbetter Interactive, you can actually see what's happening with your swing. You can probably have a sensation and a feel what's actually happening. But you tie those elements together, and that's how you make improvement. So let's go to work.